Stewardship with SNB. It's proven.
You want to kill, you want to bury. What is it all about?
Beckoning on you occupying that public office to give account of your stewardship.
To be that quiet, he's the executive governor of this state and he's the leader and head of our party.
Politics on the menu.
I don't know what will happen. The governor leads, whatever directive he brings, I will follow.
What about the surprises?
Action that I've accepted to follow will be taken for my witness. I will surprise them.
Watch Stewardship at 12:30 p.m. on weekdays. Stewardship with SNB, a new trajectory to broadcast journalism. Join us.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to this special interview program on Stewardship with SNB from Rstv. This program is viewed all over the world via our social media handles such as YouTube and of course Facebook and Rstv Online. We are on GoTV channel 142 and StarTimes channel 113. My name is Solomon Nelson-Braid. Today we're going to have a special discourse related to the Rivers economy. And of course, very recently, the governor of Rivers State, Simeon Ifobara, inaugurated the Rivers State Investment Promotion Council with the sole aim of returning Rivers State to its past economic glory. And one man saddled with that responsibility of attracting, or rather wooing investors to Rivers State is the former Commissioner for Finance in Rivers State. And of course, he's an expert in finance management, and of course, the DG, Director General of the Council, Dr. CHAMBERLAIN PETERSIDE. So how would you describe this uphill task of wooing investors to Rivers State at a time when there are ups and downs, political upheavals here and there? How do you achieve it?
Well, it's a task that we have set out to achieve. It's not going to be an easy task. Neither is it going to be a one-day task. It's going to be a continuous process. We look at it more as a process than a one-shot, taking a bullet to try to hit the target. So overall, we will be focusing on first trying to rebrand the state, trying to create the narrative that the state is not only about politics, it's not only about insecurity, and there is a lot more opportunities and things that are happening beyond politics. So we will focus on business, focus on improving the economic and business investment climate, and most importantly, trying to make it easy to operate, easy to come in if you're an investor, both foreign direct investor or domestic direct investor, to get your permits, to get your approvals, and to get your authorizations that would enable you to operate. We want to make it easy, and the cornerstone of this entity, this agency, will be the one-stop center, okay, which is designed and put together as a place or as a platform, whether it's virtual, whether it's physical location, that investors, business people, entrepreneurs can approach and get information on investment opportunities, look into the sectors that they have interest, and also understand the process, the business process that leads you from beginning to the end in terms of how you can get things done. And this is going to be done transparently. It's going to be done without any quid pro quo. So that way you build confidence. Build confidence in those who are aspiring to do things and those who are already doing business here. And before you know it, the information begins to evaporate, and people begin to get an understanding as to there's something good going on there. And that's how we intend to go about it.
Yeah, building confidence is key in attracting investors, whether local or foreign. But investors also think about safety.
Correct.
How safe is Rivers State for investors to investments to thrive?
Okay, very good question. Rivers State is not unsafe, or rather unsafe than you might have nationwide. And but we do have a problem, and that problem is a perception issue, where people think that, you talk about Rivers State or Port Harcourt, oh my God, don't go there. There's a lot of things going on. But you, who live here, people we see and host all the time, they do know that when they are here, they feel safe. And they look around and say, where's the insecurity? We don't see it. We're trying to get ourselves to see how insecure it is, and they never see it. So seeing is believing. Unfortunately, the news bites, the narrative that people have been getting, and sometimes consciously, other jurisdictions might make efforts to demarket, your own, locality just to compete for investments, compete for, attractions, and those kinds of things. So we are absolutely out to, challenge that, but not only challenge it verbally, not just sit here, speak to the screen on TV, online, but to show, with action. People who will come do business in the state will put out, test cases where they have come, run the operations, gotten approvals from beginning to the end, and some of those test cases begin to go out as examples of people who have done practical things and have been successful. So we keep talking about insecurity. There's a general sense of insecurity that is pervasive in the country right now, and let's not kid ourselves. We've had, all sorts of issues over the last, several years. So Rivers State is not immune from those kinds of issues. Unemployment is high. Youth restiveness is an issue. Political instability has also been part of our, history and recent history. And unfortunately, that hasn't helped. Rivers State is a frontline state. It's the second largest economy, and it has a lot of attributes that puts it in the limelight. And any thing that happens, it shines. And unfortunately, it's been shining in the wrong light as far as the security is concerned.
Okay, a few hours ago, would I say a few days ago, Budget Foundation, a report published by Budget Foundation, ranked Rivers State as tops in the Committee of State, a state that has performed very well in terms of fiscal performance and all of that.
Yes.
How would you describe, or in your opinion, what would you say sets Rivers State apart from other states in terms of fiscal performance?
That's right. First, you have to realize the fact that the governor is a financial professional, is an accountant, chartered accountant, and he had worked at several layers in the public sector financial system of the state. And he'd been accountant general. He has also been the permanent secretary for finance. He's actually been the director of finance. So he does understand the financial architecture. All right, he knows it well. But beyond that, he's somebody who is prudent and frugal. So being prudent, keeping things and doing things the right way, it's just natural for him to do. So when you have someone like that as a governor, it's almost a given that you're going to have, the fiscal architecture that will be more transparent, and you have more full disclosure. And when you look at those ratings, the criteria for those ratings are pretty much things that border around transparency, accountability, full disclosure, and making sure that people are aware of what you're doing, how you're spending. And it's no secret that if you do that well, it will show, it will reflect in your positive rating. And fortunately also, because of his experience and background in finance and accounting, the state had actually done very, very well in the last year or so in its IGR generation. Okay? That number had grown, continues to grow, and you'll be shocked that the target was to be at, say, 20 billion plus from last August until maybe over the next 18 months. But in less than 12 months and counting, it surpassed an average of 25 billion monthly. So the target is way beyond that now. And it's all thanks to his focus, fiscal prudence. And by the way, let me also give you one very, very interesting hint. Ordinarily, most governments do borrow. They borrow against their VAC allocation, borrow against their IGR allocation. And it's a natural thing that if you're going to fund a project, you want to pay down, and then you use your monthly allocations to pay up that loan. This is the first government that has come to office and have been able to pay for projects from revenue proceeds, especially the IGR proceeds. That's quite major. I don't want to go into the details, the ratios. And if I give you those ratios, how much the state earns, how much of that covers its operating expenditure, how much of that is left to fund infrastructure projects, it's no surprise at all that the state will be very highly and positively rated.
Okay, that's okay. You're also a finance expert, par excellence, and I want you to tell our viewers what you think are the inherent benefits of Rivers State emerging tops in the fiscal performance in Nigeria.
Well, it goes without saying that if you're rated high in your fiscal performance, it reflects your level of prudence. It reflects your level of accountability, proper transparency in your public service architecture. But it also gives you a seal of approval, okay, that gives you the confidence, and investors feel confident that in this jurisdiction, managing funds prudently, transparently, and in an accountable manner comes natural to them. That's the kind of ecosystem that investors want to operate. And if you get that right, you begin to gain traction in attracting investments, in growing your job opportunities, in growing your GDP. So it has a multiplier effect when the investing public see you in a good light, that you're doing well in terms of your fiscal rating. So that those fiscal ratings are things that might seem simple, but they are very, very fundamental in determining where investors deploy their funds and why they make decisions in going to one jurisdiction as opposed to the other. So there are things that the government is taking very seriously and acting on accordingly.
We'll be talking to the DG, Rivers Investment Promotion Council, Dr. Chamberlain PETERSIDE. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll talk more about Rivers economy and investments. Stewardship with SNB. Stewardship with SNB. Alright, if you have just joined us, this program is Stewardship with SNB, and we're joined in live studio by the Director General of the Rivers Investment Promotion Council, Dr. PETERSIDE, Chamberlain PETERSIDE. In your opinion, what do investors actually want from Rivers State, and how prepared are you to meet the expectations?
Okay, usually in any jurisdiction, what investors are looking for is an environment that is favorable to operate, an environment where the frictions are minimal or not inexistent, an environment where it is easy to come in, get permits, approvals, and begin to operate, an environment where there's transparency and accountability in how you utilize funds, an environment where you're not being hassled to invest. Investing funds is already a tough thing to do. It's difficult to deploy funds. But the perception that if you're an investor, you're coming to scoop up money or harvest money from the street is wrong. So investors do not want to be seen in that light, where society or miscreants believe that you're coming to pack money from the streets and therefore they must extort you. That is not right. And in successful, economies, growth-oriented economies, there's one common denominator. It is easier to do business. And that is what a lot of governments around the world are striving for, to create a much more favorable environment that will attract investors, that will create jobs, that will grow the GDP, and make life more meaningful, improve the well-being. So that's the same thing I believe investors are looking for when they come to Rivers State. They want to operate in an environment that is easy to do business, minimize frictions, and get things done. Don't bother about profit margins. Of course, there are profits to be made. But before profits are made, you have to operate more conducively, and the rest will take care of itself. So there's nothing special, I believe, that investors are looking for hear that they are not seeking out there elsewhere. And I don't believe that it's impossible for us to provide that. We're willing to cooperate and willing to help coordinate, make life and make business more favorable for them.
DG, you are a player in the financial market. You have been Commissioner for Finance. And now you are saddled with this all-important task of getting investments and investors to business in River State. What is the volume of foreign direct investments in River State in the past 1 year, as you know?
Well, as you know, also, we were formed. The executive order was signed on the 4th of August. We were inaugurated on this 19th of August. So we're barely 3 months in office. And before then, the Investment Promotion Agency never existed in the state. So I would not try to give you the wrong data on what the amount of FDI is over the last 12 months. But I don't think it's been anything positive or anything that you might say is to be proud of, unfortunately. We've had previous years where in certain years there were no direct investments.
Why do you think it was so?
Well, because you have to create an environment. No, it's not insecurity as such. You have to be more open and amenable and receptive to investments before they will come. And when they do come, companies, quite frankly, can make their own arrangements for insecurity. Insecurity is a relative terminology. You might live in this state, and there are certain places you might never get to. I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Moscow, I've lived in several global cities, and I never got to certain areas. Why? Because it just might not be as safe as other places. Okay. So it's a relative terminology. If you live in Lagos, you don't wake up and begin to stroll around inside a Jebule because you're a foreign investor. You focus and do your business. And wherever you do your business, it's assumed that it's relatively safe. You take measures to mitigate, security situations. You take measures to hedge your risks. And then the rest, society, the government would have to provide. Okay, so insecurity is not the singular factor why we haven't seen a kind of superior...
Maybe lack of political will or something.
I wouldn't say it's lack of political will, but lack of the interest to attract, to proactively pull in foreign direct investments. River State is endowed, you might note, in terms of its tract allocation, in terms of its natural resources. So it's remained a hub for oil and gas. And it's a coastal city. So there are natural attributes that would attract certain kinds of investments, whether you like it or not. Unfortunately, those kinds of investment might come, but you might not benefit from it. And so in years past, some governments might just be reluctant to go the extra mile to attract any investors. Say, if you like, come. If you like, don't come. That's not the attitude. We don't believe that is the right way. So that has inhibited the growth and the size of foreign direct investments.
DG, how would you rate the ease of doing business in River State?
The ease of doing business hasn't been as impressive as it ought to be. So, for instance, when we were in office, there was a rating of ease of doing business that rated Zamfara State as the best. And people would say...
Zamfara State?
Yes. People would say, no, Zamfara or Jigawa State, one of those. People would say, well, who is going to Jigawa after all? So, it's easier. If you go there, you're one of the few, if you're one of the few investors who might show up there anyway. So, all attention will be on you to help you do what you want to do. But in determining the ease of doing business, there are certain criteria that are very paramount. How fast is it for you to get approved for any kind of permits or authorizations? How fast is it for you to register title on the transaction, the land transaction? How receptive are the banks to taking your CFOs? How long does it take to get a CFO? In those parameters, we do not rate well, unfortunately. We don't rate as well as Abuja, for instance, or Lagos, that has set up fantastic, robust geographic information system where land titles are registered, where you can get CFOs signed, where banks accept CFOs from those jurisdictions. I'm not sure from my source that banks actually accept CFOs from River State as collateral. That is unacceptable. So the ease of doing business in Rivers hasn't been as positive and favorable as it ought to be.
Sustainable energy is key to, of course, keeping your investors and investments stable in the state. What are your plans to have a cheaper and sustainable energy for investments in the state?
Well, let me begin by saying that first you have to talk about not cheaper energy, but sustainable and regular energy supply. Okay?
It has to be affordable too.
Hold on a minute. Before it's affordable, it has to be regular and sustainable.
Okay.
Regular in the sense that there has to be constant energy, constant power supply. So if you want to focus on affordability at the expense of it being sustainable and steady, then that's a wrong approach. That's a misnomer. People, commercial and retail customers, have to be able to get regular power supply. And if you get it regularly, then you can now measure and see how you consume it. Like in place where you have prepaid meter, you can turn on some devices. So consumption and affordability is a function of the consumer. If you consume less, you pay less. So if you want to measure the value of power consumption, let's say burning kerosene or burning diesel or even burning firewood and candle, it is more expensive to use all the sources of power than it is to use central PHED power supply. Yes, quite frankly, it's been measured and it's been proven that if you're going to burn firewood, the cost of burning firewood to cook a pot of soup or to cook meals is more expensive if you had kerosene. It's more expensive than if you had gas. Of course, the upfront cost of gas is higher. If you're going to have a prepaid meter, it is cheaper to have prepaid meter than it is to burn diesel. So when you talk about affordability, I know that the masses would almost want to have power free of charge, but that's not possible, right? So let's focus more on providing sufficient, regular, and dependable power supply. We're not there yet, and that's my side. So I think that's one of the priorities, actually.
Of course, and I want you to look into it very seriously. Any laws you're proposing to ensure that investments are safe and secure in the state?
Yes, the executive order setting of the agency, first is what has given life to the agency. But beyond the executive order, the agency's formation, there are other amendments I will propose as time goes on, such as an amendment on investment protection, not just promotion but protection, making sure that your investment is protected, making sure that your recourse to seek redress in the court of law is done expeditiously and is done in a fair manner. Fortunately, they have the multi-door courts that exist already, that you can take any matter, and you have arbitration also. Those provisions have to be codified, and I believe they are, but they have to provide the first result for investors to approach and try to seek redress than the long litigation process that we do have today. If you cannot make it easy to resolve disputes, either by arbitration, or amicable resolution, or through the alternative means, then you're bound to scare some investors. So if there's a problem, what do I do? What's my option? Investors are more likely to be leery. So those are the provisions. And then, of course, we'd like to see a robust geographical, all lands, parcels of lands statewide are captured electronically. Data on them is captured. You can map any land or any house or any space in real time anywhere in the state and register title easily and identify who owns this, where does your boundary stop, survey plans must be electronically available. So you can search for any land anywhere in the world before you enter any transaction. We'd like to see a system that is electronical, robust, functional, and very, very dependable. Geographical information, what we call a geographical information system to register land titles.
Dr. PETERSIDE, as a DG of the Investment Promotion Council, why should an investor choose River State over her neighbors?
Good question. And my simple answer to that is, first, an investor has to determine their priorities, then compare that to the priorities of the state. The state does have its priorities. The governor announced that in his inaugural speech. Agriculture is a key sector, energy, infrastructure, healthcare, education, those kinds of things. That should be first and foremost the attractive element to any investor. Second of all, River State is an industrial hub for the oil and gas and for the maritime blue economy. That also makes it a naturally endowed territory than the other states. So it's natural that if you're looking to doing any of the business activities in those areas, you're likely to choose River State as opposed to somewhere else.
Interesting.
So can we round up?
Yes. Okay, so any other thing you want to add to what you said?
Well, what I want to say,
your promises to investors.
Well, no promises, but what I want to say is we are committed to ensuring that the state is a conducive business environment where investors can feel comfortable, where investors can come, deploy their funds, and feel rest assured that they are safe, and this can be done in a transparent manner without any molestation. So we are open for business at River State.
All right. Dr. Chamberlain PETERSIDE, the Director General of the River State Council of Investment Promotion Council of River State. I want to thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you.
And that's our program. Join us again, same time tomorrow. We'll bring you another guest on the program. My name is Solomon Nelson Braid. Stewardship with SNB.